Hi, welcome back to Briarwood Kids Ask. My name is Dan Buck. I am the director of the lower school at the Briarwood School in Houston, Texas. I am here with Sarah Ward and with Eric, who has some great questions for Miss Ward. Sarah Ward has over 25 years of experience in the treatment of executive dysfunction. Sarah is an internationally recognized expert on executive function and presents seminars on the programs and strategies she's developed with her co-director, Kristen Jacobsen. Their 360 Thinking Executive Function program received the Innovative Promising Practices Award from the national organization CHADD. Could I say Chad?
It's Chad. Yep.
All right. She has presented to over 1,600 public and private schools and organizations worldwide. We are very honored to have Ms. Ward, and we're equally honored to have Eric, who is a third grade student here at the Briarwood School. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Excited to be here.
Cool. We'll put you two together. All right, Eric, you are on.
Is ADHD a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a great thing. I would say it's neither good nor bad. So ADHD is just one way to describe how individuals either have attention and or may they have attention on something else. So typically when we're doing something, we need to be focusing, and we also need to be thinking about the future. And I love to show like a future thought bubble. And sometimes what happens is you might have a future goal, like maybe in class you need to draw a picture or write a paragraph. So you're thinking about that paragraph. But then what happens is something distracts you or something gains your attention, and you look over here, and when you focus on that, sometimes you forget about this. So attention deficit is just one way of describing how you might attend to one thing, and then you shift your attention and you focus on something else. So, and by the way, typically lots and lots of people I know that have attention deficit are extremely creative and very, very bright and have lots of unique ideas, and they're spontaneous and they like to try lots of new things. So I think it's a great thing.
Can you grow out of ADHD?
I would say that people who generally have ADHD typically continue into adulthood as still having ADHD. But typically, as you get older, you learn lots of strategies to help you manage it. A lot of times you learn ways to organize your space to make it easier to focus. And there's lots of different tricks of things that you can do. Exercise helps sometimes, diet helps sometimes, all sorts of things like that, that it may not be so problematic as you get older.
Okay, the third question, is there a connection between being multilingual and having ADHD?
What a great question, being multilingual and having ADHD. So I'll focus on what I know about that. What I know is that when a person is multilingual and they can think and hear a question and respond in two different languages, or be able to read in two different languages, if someone says something to you in one language, your brain has to hear that. Then you have to shift from what they said from one language to say a second language. So you speak Swedish. I learned that today. Yes. Yeah. So if somebody says something to you in English and you want to respond in Swedish, you have to shift your attention from English to Swedish and then respond. When you are shifting your attention like that back and forth, that really makes your attention stronger. So what we know is that students sometimes that are multilingual actually have better attention and better executive function and planning skills, because they're better able to shift back and forth between two different things.
So is there a connection? Okay, sometimes people think I'm not listening, but I am, and they get surprised when I repeat what they said accurately. Is that common for folks with ADHD?
Oh, that's very common. Because sometimes what's happening is as you're listening to something, if your mind is wandering a little bit, or if something catches your attention over here, you might be dividing your attention. So you might be looking over there, but you're still listening to what someone is saying. And you're oftentimes, people with ADHD can sometimes really do many things at once. They have the ability to listen and to doodle, or to listen and to see something that's going on outside the window and remember. So that's really common. I expect that a lot. And I'll also say, I don't know if you find this, do you ever find it's hard sometimes when someone's talking to you to really look and focus on them?
It doesn't seem that hard. Is it is it common for folk with ADHD to have a great memory?
Absolutely. Because a lot of times you can be focusing on all sorts of details and really remember a lot of details that no one else remembers. Do you have, for example, I'll ask you this, Eric, do you have a good memory for your trips, like when you've been to places? Do you remember a lot of information from those?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot. I remember many stuff.
Yeah. And that's one.
I store a lot of stuff in my memory.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you, for example, if you're reading a book, do you make like a picture or a movie in your mind from the words?
Yes,
Does
and
that help
then
you?
when I finish the book, I keep on remembering what happened in the book. I remember what happened to the book. I remember what
That's
happened in the book. Like, for example, I remember some of the books. I read the funny stuff happening in them.
That's right. And so that's the thing. Sometimes people with ADHD, when they're reading, they read it and they picture it and they have lots of ideas. And when you travel, you're really paying attention to something exciting because it's new and you can really remember those details later. So oftentimes people with ADHD have a very good memory, especially for past experiences and events.
Like, for example, once I got chased by bees.
I bet that's something you would not forget.
Is it common that people with ADHD read well and a lot?
Um, I would say it depends. Uh, Most people with ADHD can be very good readers, and sometimes they really love to read. Especially there can be certain types of books. If it's a book that it is something you're really interested in. So if you're really into sports, you might really like books about sports. If you're really into fantasy, you might really love a Harry Potter story or something like that and read a lot. But then sometimes if it's something that you're just not quite so interested in, and it might feel a little boring, or it might feel like something you just don't understand, then when you're reading it, your attention and your mind can wander, and then it makes it hard to remember what you've read. So I think that you can read really well, but it's even better when you really like what you're reading about. And that's why I would say it's important when you do have ADHD to seek out and to find books that you really do like.
Okay. I focus really well on some things, like reading exciting books, but not so well on other things. Is that common?
Absolutely. Because if something is really interesting for you, it's easy to focus on it. And if something is not so interesting and you get bored or you're having a hard time, then your mind can wander. So if you think about it again, let's say I'm really interested in something, I'm really picturing, I'm thinking about it. But if something isn't so interesting and I'm looking at it, all of a sudden I'm not thinking about it. And then my mind wanders and I just can't stay focused. So that's really common for people with ADHD.
That's very common with folks with ADHD. And can an actor or a writer be good jobs for someone with ADHD?
The job of an actor or a writer.
Yes.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. So acting is sort of interesting for a couple of reasons. Acting requires you to really memorize lines and know what you're going to say. And we talked a little bit before, people with ADHD oftentimes have really good memory for information and for like lines and scripts and that kind of thing. They're very good at that. That's something called rote memory too. So that's a real strength to be able to remember what to say. I also think that people that are really creative are very good at acting. And the other thing is that a lot of people with ADHD are real people oriented. Like they really like people and they like hanging out with people and they're so social and really friendly. And a lot of times when you're an actor, you have to be able to act like how another person might feel. And I think sometimes people with ADHD are really sensitive to how other people feel. And so it makes them good at being able to think about how a character might feel.
Okay. Can people with ADHD improve their ability to focus by practicing anything in particular or having certain habits?
Yes, 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 and yes. I think that ADHD can absolutely be practiced and improved. There are things that you can do. For example, if you want to do some work and focus for a period of time, one great thing to practice is knowing how much time you have and being able to see that time and to know what you're going to do during that time to keep you focused. And if you've heard me chat before, you know I have a favorite trick for that. Do you know my favorite trick for that? My favorite trick is I love a clock, but my favorite trick for that is actually drawing on a clock. Because if you say, oh, I need to read for 10 minutes, sometimes that can feel overwhelming. Or maybe your teacher says you need to read for 20 minutes. And sometimes people think, oh, 20 minutes, that feels like a long time. But if you have a clock like this, and all of a sudden you use a dry erase marker like I'm doing, and you draw on it 5, 10, 15, 20, and you shade it in just like that on a clock, all of a sudden you can see how much time you have. And it doesn't look like that much. That's really helpful. So that if you get distracted and time is passing, you can really see, oh, that much time passed, and now I have this much time left.
Pass.
Yeah, that's right. That's why a clock is great.
It passed so quickly. It felt like, it felt like 2 seconds. Like, how did the clock pass so quickly like this?
It moved really fast. And time, that's the thing. We can actually feel time passing better when we see a clock. So here's another thing. If you want to improve your attention, you want to get rid of some things that are distracting to you. So if you're at your desk at home and you have lots of things on your desk, better to move a few of those things. That will help you focus. So there's lots of tricks that you can do. Let me ask you this. When you read, do you ever put like a ruler or a piece of paper on the page to help you focus when you're reading so that you're just following the line that you're reading?
Yeah, that works. But I usually am good at keeping up with books or remembering where I was.
You are. And how about at your house or like in your bedroom? Do you ever kind of clean anything up to focus a little better?
Yes. Yeah, one more question for you.
Okay.
This is the last one. Can old kids or adults without ADHD suddenly get ADHD?
Well, let's see. So generally, I sometimes find that there are older kids or adults who may have always had some challenges with attention, but they just really sort of maybe didn't go see a doctor or see somebody who actually said, this is attention deficit disorder. So sometimes people don't get told that that's what the challenge is until they're older. However, there are some times where, do you have any friends that play football or soccer or basketball or ski or anything like
I
that?
have a friend who plays football. And
You
I
do?
played some soccer I played some soccer yesterday.
Did you? Well, you probably know in soccer, sometimes people take a header on a ball, or sometimes in football, people bonk their heads. So I do see that sometimes older students and adults, if they've maybe had a small concussion or something like that from a sports injury or something like that, sometimes they can then get attention problems from that. But it's not just, you do not see that typically someone 35 all of a sudden just has attention deficit disorder. Usually doesn't happen like that. But a bonk on the head can cause you to have some attention problems that will look a lot like ADHD.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe you've reached the end of your questions, is that right?
Yes, I know.
Okay, awesome. All right. It has truly been a pleasure to have you, Miss Ward. Eric, this was awesome. Really nice dialogue between the two of you.
Yeah, once I was racing with my friend and I did hit my head on a wall.
Wow.
Because you're running too fast, and you know what else? Once I was sitting, I think yesterday when I was sitting, one of the footballs hit me in the face.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
gosh.
That can happen.
And the World Cup's happening right now, right? So you're watching the World Cup a little bit?
Yes, that's the reason we're playing soccer.
Cool.
So exciting.
So I want to thank both of you for your time. Please tune in next month. You can find out our next guest soon. And I wish the best to both of you. Have a wonderful holiday.
Nice to see you both. Have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.